All right. So you cleaned your diet up just for this. You cut the junk, you hit your protein, you switch to the sugar-free version of everything. Because if you're spending real money on peptides, you're not gonna waste them eating like you don't care, right? That's good. Thank you for doing that. The instinct is right. But the foods doing the most damage to your results aren't the ones that you cut. You see, they're the 4 or 5 things still sitting in your safe or passable or okay columns right now. I'm Dr. Jones, DC, and I coach thousands of patients running peptides and GLP-1 protocols, and I've used peptides myself, so I've watched this exact mistake play out from both sides of the needle. You see, the people getting the least out of their stack are almost never the ones who dosed wrong. They're the ones doing everything right on the protocol and on paper and quietly undoing it with what they put into their mouths. So let's find those leaks. Okay, so here's what I need you to understand about the money that you're spending. A peptide doesn't force your body to do anything. It sends a signal. Repair this, release growth hormone here, turn this pathway back on. Essentially, I like to think of them as amplifiers. It takes a signal that your body is already capable of sending and it turns the volume up. But an amplifier only works if there's a signal to amplify. And the part that most people miss, the wrong foods don't just fail to help. They actively send the opposite signal. You turn the volume up with one hand and you slam it back down with the other. Think of it like a boat. The peptide is the engine, running clean, doing exactly what it's supposed to do. But if the hull is full of holes, it doesn't matter how good the engine is, right? Those holes have names, and most of them are sitting in your kitchen right now. And they're disguised as quote unquote healthy choices. So let's go find them. See, we're gonna start with the ones that nobody wants to hear because it's the one doing the most damage. So let's talk alcohol. And before you tune out, I know your argument. You switch to vodka sodas, tequilas and limes, low carb, low sugar move. You did that specifically so that drinking won't wreck your progress. And I get it. It's the smart sounding fix, but here's the problem. The carbohydrates were never how alcohol was hurting you. Alcohol shuts down your results through completely different doors. And that one door in particular has nothing to do with sugar or calories. You see, when you drink, the alcohol itself can suppress muscle protein synthesis, and that's the repair and rebuild process, the exact signal that a growth hormone peptide or recovery peptide exists to amplify. There's actually a study that put this on a stopwatch. They gave people alcohol after training, they matched the calories, they matched the protein, controlled for everything that they could. It was a pretty good study. And the muscle building signal still dropped in that trial compared to the people who skipped the alcohol. Same food, same protein. The main difference was the drinking. So repair still tanked. So picture what you're actually doing on a Friday night. Your peptide is in your system, telling your body to repair and grow, and you pour in something that stands at the door and says, "Not tonight, homie." Yeah, that's what your peptides would sound like. You paid to turn the signal up, but the drink reversed it. It doesn't care one bit that it was carbohydrate-free or not. And here's where it even compounds. One of your biggest natural growth hormone releases of the entire day doesn't happen at the gym. It happens a couple hours into deep sleep. That's the window that your body does its heaviest repair. And it's the exact release that your growth hormone peptides are built to ride on top of. You see, alcohol takes a wrecking ball to that window. It blunts the pulse. It shreds the deep sleep that the pulse depends on. So the drink hits you twice in a single night. The one that your stack is specifically designed to amplify. You paid to turn that release up, but you're spending the night turning it down. Combine that with the inflammation and toxins released from alcohol, and you're giving your body more to fight against when it should be leaning into whatever your peptides were designed to do. So here's a gut check before we move on. What actually makes alcohol sabotage your peptide results? Is it the carbohydrates or the ethanol, the main component of alcohol? If you said carbohydrates, I want you to go back and watch that last part again. You see, the weekend drinks are almost always the first leak that I point people to, but they're not the only one. And the next one's actually hiding in food that you probably think is helping. Okay, so refined carbohydrates and sugar, but not the obvious ones because you're probably already cut those out too as well. So sodas, candies, so you feel covered, right? But here's what's still getting you. It's not just the white bread and the pastries, it's the healthy version of the same thing. The granola, the flavored yogurts, the oat milk lattes with 2 pumps of vanilla? Refined carbohydrates wearing a wellness label. You see, when you eat those, blood sugar levels stay spike, and when your body answers with a big surge of insulin to clear it out. That's what it does. You do that a few times a day, every day, and you keep doing that, you keep your insulin levels elevated for hours, hours and hours and hours. Now, calories still matter here. I want to be clear. So if you're in a deficit, you're not going to gain weight. That part's real. But insulin is the hormone deciding what your body does with those calories. And while it's up, your body is in storage mode, not burn mode. That's the hormonal side that people skip. 2 problems for your stack. Okay, so first we got chronically elevated insulin, which is the exact metabolic environment that your GLP-1 medications and your metabolic peptides, that's what they have to work against. So you're asking them to improve insulin sensitivity while your fork keeps hammering in the other direction. And then second, those insulin surges can blunt the growth hormone release that we just talked about. Growth hormone and high insulin, they don't play nice in the same room. So the same spikes that keep you in storage mode are also flattening the repair signal that your recovery peptides need. You're not eating candy bars, I know, but a day built on healthy, refined carbohydrates keeps the exact hormone elevated that your whole stack is trying to bring down. The label said clean, but your insulin didn't read the label. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Now look, if you're metabolically healthy, carbohydrates are not as bad, but we're talking about the individuals that carry extra weight that struggle to lose weight in particular. Okay, third leak, and this is the one almost everybody watching is sure that they've already solved. Protein. You hit your number, right? You track it. You've got the shake, the chicken, the Greek yogurt, so you're covered, right? But here's the trap. It's not just how much protein you eat in a day, it's how you spread it out. And almost everybody gets this exactly backwards. See, most people, they eat like this. Barely any protein at breakfast, maybe a little bit at lunch, and then a giant slab of it at dinner. Same total on paper if they're putting effort, but your body doesn't just build muscle off of a daily total. It builds in response to each meal. There's a threshold in every meal that has to be crossed to flip the switch on muscle repair. You cross it and the repair signal fires. You miss it and that one meal does almost nothing for you. No matter how high protein that your day looks like in the app. So picture the person on growth hormone peptides or recovery peptides eating 2 low protein meals and 1 huge one. 2/3 of their day, the peptides in their system are screaming, repair and rebuild, and then there's no raw materials in the room to do with it. The signals are firing in an empty warehouse. Then dinner dumps on a pile of material all in at once, way more than the body can actually use in a single sitting. Now, I want to be clear about this because this is a really interesting topic. There's been research to counter what I just told you, and I'm fully aware of that. Essentially, we've arrived at the point where we now say there is benefit to still get a massive bolus of protein at the end of the day. Your body can utilize that. So just to clear up the confusion, there's a difference between saying it doesn't help or what is most optimal. So what I'm saying is what is most optimal is spreading your protein out. Every time protein hits, it signals mTOR, you get the growth, your body has better utilization of amino acids. But what we are saying though is if you don't, and you can't get it all during the day, but you have an opportunity to get a bolus at night, that would still be better than just having low protein throughout the 24-hour period. So that's what I want to clear up. We want you to spread your protein out because that is the most optimal. In the middle would be getting a big bolus at the end of the day. And then the worst case scenario would just be not getting enough protein, period. Now, I also want to say that this is absolutely not to say that you shouldn't be practicing any type of fasting if your game plan calls for that. But I'm saying that when you are in your eating windows, spread your protein out as much as you possibly can. So let me give you the actual number because eat more protein is useless without a goal. And keep it simple here because there's so many confusing formulas. Just 1 gram of protein per pound of your target body weight every day. That's it. Not your current weight, your target weight. Just 1 gram per pound of target body weight. That accounts for roughly how much muscle mass you probably have in your body. So you want a no tracking eyeball version. That's roughly a palm to a palm and a half of quality protein sourced per meal. But the number is the target. The palm is just a shortcut when you can't weigh it. Hit that daily total, spread it across your meals, and the peptide finally has material to work with every time that it fires, not just once at night. Now, if you're sitting there realizing that you've been plugging the wrong holes this entire time, wow, that didn't sound right. Dialing in your dose while the real leaks were on your plate, that's exactly the conversation that our team has with you on your free discovery call. This isn't a sales pitch, it's just a real look at whether your foundation is set up to actually let your protocol work. There's a link in the description or you can text them on the screen if you'd like to know what it's like to work with me or my coaches. Okay, now, quick reality check, because I know the comments are already being typed. There's 2 things. 1, no, this is not too much protein will wreck your kidneys. That warning is for people with existing kidney disease. For a healthy person, this intake is well supported and considered safe. 2, this isn't about eating a mountain of protein. It's the opposite. For a lot of people, hitting 1 gram per pound of target body weight isn't dramatically more than they're already eating. It's the same amount moved to where it actually counts. That's a distribution fix as much as a volume fix, and the distribution part costs you nothing extra. And make no mistake here, this one belongs on the destroy list too. Missing your protein doesn't just leave results on the table. It actively kneecaps every peptide that you're paying for. See, here's the part that should change how you think about it, even if you couldn't care less about looking jacked. I like to look a little bit jacked, but not everybody's about that life. This isn't a bodybuilding thing. Muscle is one of your biggest places that your body disposes of glucose. It's where most of the sugar in your bloodstream actually goes to and gets used. So more muscle means there's more room to park that glucose, which means less of it is floating around in your bloodstream, which would drive insulin up, right? So that means insulin levels are lower. Protein feeds the muscle. Muscle lowers the insulin load, and a lower insulin load is the exact environment that every metabolic peptide that you're running, a lot of them, are trying to create. That's why protein is one input that pays off no matter what you're on. It's not competing with your stack for the win. It's building the foundation that the damn stack is on top of. And whatever peptide you're running, whatever your goal is, more protein in the right place makes it work better. There's no version of this where getting protein right doesn't help. Now, quick check before the last one. What's the more common protein mistake for someone on a peptide? Not eating enough in total or eating it all at once in a single meal? Your daily total can be right on the app, and you can still fail if 2/3 of your meals that never cross that threshold. Now, if you're sitting there going, Dr. Jones, I get it. I need to protect my muscle. But the problem is I can't get my ass to the gym. It's a time limitation. Like, I really want to go, but I'm averaging about once a week. Or maybe your body's just riddled with injuries, so you really can get there, but you can't work out because your body's a mess. Let me know in the comments, because I have a solution for you, a literal at-home 10-minute workout that you can do 4 times a week and never have to set foot in the gym again. Now, the last leak, and it's the sneakiest one because it doesn't feel like eating. I call it the bite trap. And I want to walk you through a completely normal day because this is where it hides. You wake up, you're good, black coffee, maybe a protein shake, dialed in. Around 10 a.m., someone brought a donut in the office and you're like, I'll just have a little bite. Lunch is solid, but then at 3 p.m., energy dips, so a little bit of granola or maybe even a protein bar or a handful of pretzels from the drawer. Not too much, keeping your calories down. And then on the drive home, you finish the fries that your kids couldn't eat, just a couple bites, right? It's the kid size and they ate half of it. While you're cooking dinner, you're grazing a few slices, maybe a few crackers, maybe a slice of cheese, a couple tortilla chips out of the bag, not much. Dinner itself is clean. And then after dinner, a couple squares of dark chocolate because it's high amount of polyphenols, right? Thank you, Dr. Gundry. Now you add it up in your head and you ate 3 clean meals because you somehow have amnesia when you're all of a sudden trying to confront what you actually ate. It's crazy how that works, right? And on paper, you had a great day, but you also spiked your insulin 5 or 6 separate times on food that you never counted as eating. Not one of those bites registered as a meal. So none of them made it into your mental tally, but every single one pulled you back into storage mode and kept that insulin needle twitching all day long. You see, the peptide spent the entire day trying to quiet the water down, and then you kept dropping pebbles in it, right? So I'll be straight with you on the science because you're gonna hear people overstate this. The research linking ultra-processed foods to worse metabolic outcomes is strong on association. What it's still getting argued is why. Is it the processing itself, or just that these foods are engineered to be easy to overeat and they crowd out real food? That part isn't settled. Now, if you want my opinion, this is what I'm gonna tell you. You have big food companies that literally pay scientists and they say, hey, scientist guy, your job is to make this shit delicious, addicting. And at the same time, I don't wanna spend a lot of money, so make it as affordable as possible for us to make because the company over there is dropping their prices, so we gotta be competitive. So use the cheapest ingredients and make it taste so damn good that those kids are asking mom for more every single day. Like that's kind of what happens. And so what do you think you're gonna get in the bag of Oreos? Like cheap crap that's probably really bad for you, right? That's kind of how I look at it. And again, that doesn't prove anything. That's not what I'm saying. That's not science, but I lose a little trust and I hope you do too. And if this is landing for you, here's something that I want to make next, the flip side, the foods and inputs that actually amplify your peptide results instead of just canceling them. If you want that video, let me know in the comments and tell me which matters more to you, dialing in the pre-training window or maxing out the recovery side, because that's the one that I'll build from your answers. A quick one before we keep going. You're already doing the work of learning this stuff. So if you want the deep version, I break down a real patient case every couple weeks, how I read it, what we tried, and why. That's called the War Room, just for a couple bucks a month. There's also a higher tier with access to my weekly live coaching calls. If you want any of that or learn more, just head over to the YouTube membership section. Now I got one additional variable that actually matters, and it's the one that almost everybody overlooks, how you distribute your protein across the day. We talked about this, but I want to hit it again. In the order that you eat your food in each meal. eat your protein and your fiber first before the starch, and you end up blunting the sugar spike from that same meal, which loops right back to the insulin problem that we talked about. Same food, same plate, different order. Lower insulin response. It costs you nothing. So protein first at every single meal in the right order. That's the whole game. And it's not sexy, and it won't trend on a peptide forum, but it's the difference between a stack that works and a stack that you're quietly canceling. Look, none of these leaks are dramatic on their own. A few drinks, a granola bar, protein at the wrong time, a handful of chips that you didn't count, but you're running a stack precisely because you care about the outcome. And every one of these is quietly draining the thing that you're paying for. So I want to hear from you out of everything that we've covered. Which one's your leak? And I want you to be honest with yourself. Is it the weekend drinks, the protein you can never quite hit, the late night grazing that you don't count? Let me know in the comments because I try my best to read every single one. So here's where this leaves you. You can take everything in this video and just run it yourself. That's genuinely most of the battle. And if you close these leaks on your own, good. I'm glad the video did its job. But if you've been running a stack for months with that quiet voice asking you whether any of it's actually working, do you actually know what you're doing? Because I feel like you're just kind of putting shit together. I don't know what your voice might sound like. But anyways, and now you're realizing that the answer might have been in front of you the entire time. That's the exact moment that our medical team is built for. Not a sales call, it's a free discovery call where you can talk to one of our patient educators about what you're running, what your foundation actually looks like, and whether the pieces are set up to work together. So here's what you're actually getting, so there's no confusion. A real prescription through our 503A pharmacy, plus a medical team that you can reach when a question comes up. Bundled, it's not a separate thing. Most clinics, you guys let me know if you have a clinic that doesn't do this, but most doctor-prescribed peptide clinics, they ship the vial to you and that's it. You get very little support, if any. With us, you get people who know you're the patient and they pick up when you reach, or they schedule a call with you. That's the whole difference. Now, quick note, so somebody doesn't waste their time. We provide oversight on what we prescribe. And if you already got peptides from your other sources, especially research sources, and you want somebody to sign off, help build that protocol for you, that's not what we're right for. And in fact, if anybody does that for you, that's a lot of liability on them because they have no way to know what you're actually injecting in yourself. But that's a separate thing. And if you're really here because you're fighting stubborn weight loss issues and you want something that goes deeper after the root cause, more than any single compound will do, that's what we do. Same number on the screen. In fact, that's what I'm most passionate about. Just let them know when you talk to them. Now, go watch this video right here because it's the 10 biggest mistakes that people make on peptides. And number 8 is the exact problem playing out at the foundation level. And if today's video really makes sense to you, which I'm assuming it is if you're listening to this right now, then that's going to help connect the dots for you. And it's good to actually give the information to your brain that it's sort of asking you. Listen to yourself because you'll say some pretty insightful things. We'll see you guys later.